Welcome to our first module in Help I Volunteered to Coach. I'm Dan Cottrell, Head Coach at Rugby Coach Weekly. I'm going to guide you through what you need to know and do before your first session. First, let's consider the question, what do I need to know? So, before you stand in front of your expectant players, you will have a bunch of questions for yourself. Okay, let's start with the essentials. I expect you will be already thinking, what time does the session start and what equipment do I need? So here's our top 10 of questions you should be asking yourself. Let's start with the venue. And I don't just mean the pitch itself, but whereabouts on the pitch. So you know where to set up and where to move to when it's your time. So let's think about the start time. And again, it's not just the start time for the whole session, but the start time for your part of the session, the section that you'll be running. And thinking about that as well in terms of group numbers, what numbers of players will be in your part of the session? Also, you need to consider the other coaches. There's two things to consider there. First, how many coaches will be working in your particular session, and the balance of coaches across the whole of the group. Now we're going into the session itself, and you need to consider what equipment you need for your particular part of the session, and that's going to be based on, to a certain extent, what equipment is available in stock for the whole team. Now we're running the session. We need to know how long the session should be going on for. And in particular, your activity needs to run for a set amount of time because the other coaches will be frustrated if you overrun and you go into their part of the session. I always like to know when the next match is. That gives some context that you can use with your players. Now we're in the session and we need to be safe. So there are two final questions to ask yourself. First of all, what happens when a player gets injured, or if a player gets injured? Who looks after the first aid? And finally, who's in charge of everything? Who do you go to if there is a problem which you cannot deal with yourself at the time? Now we've gone through those 10 questions. Why don't you give yourself a little quiz? Can you think of the 5 things you need to know? Then check these off against our list and then add in anything else you think is important.